سننتقل حضورنا الكريم إلى حوارنا الثالث ضمن جلسات اليوم الأول من منتدى دبي العالمي لإدارة المشاريع في هذه الدورة الثامنة. لكن هذه المرة سنتعرف من خلال الحوار التالي الاتجاهات المستقبلية في الذكاء الاصطناعي والتقنيات المتطورة بدولة الإمارات العربية المتحدة، وذلك مع معالي عمر سلطان العلماء وزير دولة للذكاء الاصطناعي والاقتصاد الرقمي وتطبيقات العمل عن بعد في دولة الإمارات، على الاتجاهات المستقبلية وأفضل الممارسات والتحولات المرنة في هذا المجال. ندعو الزميلة رانيا علي لمحاورة ضيفنا العزيز، فلنرحب بهذا الحوار التالي.
Well, thank you everyone for joining us in this session. I'm very pleased to welcome today His Excellency Omar Sultan Al-Ulama, Minister of State for Artificial Intelligence, Digital Economy and Remote Work Applications. His Excellency currently serves as the Vice Chairman of the Dubai's Higher Committee for Future Technology and Digital Economy, and he's also the Managing Director of the World Government Summit, a member of the Board of Trustees for the Dubai Future Foundation, and its Managing Director. Today's aim for this interview is to shed light on the future trends and the developments in the field of artificial intelligence and advanced technologies in the UAE. Welcome, Your Excellency. Thank you for being here with us today.
Thank you very much for having me. It's an absolute pleasure.
Your Excellency, if I can start by asking you, how do you see artificial intelligence shaping the UAE's future?
Well, I'd like to start off really by sharing some thoughts. As I came into this venue, I had this sensation, we usually look in the UAE at potential. So you see that His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, Vice President of the UAE, Prime Minister and ruler of Dubai, always looks at potential and he invests behind it. And seeing this event today, seeing this incredible crowd, seeing the quality of the speakers, the quality of the management of the event, really shows me that this is going to be one of the big events in Dubai. So I'd like to start off by really thanking everyone who is responsible for this, for the effort and for the incredible output that they've put together. Now, looking at artificial intelligence, it's funny that I think the last 3 months have been the 3 months that I've been most popular in my career because of ChatGPT, because of many of the technologies that people are using right now. But people did not see that the UAE's journey with artificial intelligence started much before that. It started with 2017 with the announcement of our AI strategy, but also prior to that, it started with really the year 2000 with the UAE's journey to putting the necessary infrastructure, if I may say, to move the government from a traditional and conventional government to a government that was based on technological means, whether it's computers or the internet, to a smart government, and today a government that is driven by artificial intelligence. The potential is one that no two people are going to disagree about. The potential is it's going to increase productivity, it's going to increase quality of life, and it's really going to make sure that as a government we are more proactive in delivering the service rather than reactive.
I'll definitely come back to GPT, but I don't want to jump now. I want to ask you about the opportunities in deploying AI in the core business and in the government in the UAE. What sort of steps you're taking to ensure that kind of a strong governance and regulation?
So for those of you who know the UAE's AI strategy and know where we're going, we actually have a guiding principle that was set forth by His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid. That guiding principle is a motto or a slogan that we use, which is building a responsible artificial intelligence nation. And the acronym spells out BRAIN, if you actually write it down. And the idea about BRAIN is responsible deployment, responsible use, responsible development of artificial intelligence means 3 things to us. First, it means that the main driver is not economic. We want to have economic return, But we want to ensure first that the impact is social rather than economic. We want to make sure that people at home, our parents, our children, our cousins and friends, are able to have the best quality of service, the best quality of life in the UAE today using artificial intelligence. The second is we need to ensure as well that we use AI in sectors where we can compete in. The UAE is perfectly situated to be a leader in this technology. And I'd like to quickly touch upon this. Why we can lead this technology is because AI depends on 3 V's. It depends on the volume of data, it depends on the velocity of data, so how fast you can access the data, and it depends on the variety of data, so how diverse that data is because of bias and issues relating to bias. What do we have in this country? We have the highest diversity of population in the planet, 200 nationalities living and thriving in this country in a very densely populated set of cities, whether it's Abu Dhabi or Dubai, and the other cities across the UAE as well. We have the most cutting-edge infrastructure. So road networks, telecommunication networks, and others ensure that we have the highest velocity of data. So today, if I go to an institution in the UAE, like, for example, the Roads and Transport Authority, or DIWA, for example, or DP World, or any of these institutions that are in Dubai specifically, what we're going to see is we can access data at the exact moment that we want it, rather than wait for a week or a month or 6 months to access it. And then finally, the volume is really big for a country of our size. We have logistics data that spans 88 countries around the world, DP World. We have airlines data that spans the whole world with Etihad and Emirates. And with that amount of data, we can actually build AI applications that can make us cutting-edge leaders. What we want to use AI for is, I think, 2 main buckets. The first is, how do we ensure that our competitive advantage is enhanced using AI? So how do we make sure that our infrastructure makes more sense in terms of our investments and our efficiency? How do we ensure that our natural resources in the UAE give us more dollars per barrel by increasing efficiencies using AI, etc.? And then second, how do we improve the status of the sectors that we want to improve using artificial intelligence? How do we make healthcare in the UAE better? How do we make education in the UAE better? How do we actually protect our citizens in the digital world using AI through cybersecurity as well?
That's really amazing. I want to touch up on this part of how the UAE is building an ecosystem to support technologies like AI, machine learning, deep learning, etc. How is the UAE doing that?
As a country, you're going to see that there are a lot of efforts across the spectrum. So the UAE has announced, through the vision of His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, the President of the UAE, the world's first university focused on higher education in AI, the Mohammed bin Zayed University for Artificial Intelligence. And if you look at the quality of teachers, the quality of, let's say, compute capabilities that they have, as well as the output in terms of research that is coming out of this university, it is really paramount. It's second to none, globally, I would say. Even if you look at some research institutions like TII, for example, in Abu Dhabi, there are other research institutions in Dubai, like the British University in Dubai and what they're doing, Birmingham University as well, and a few others. So in terms of research and development, we're doing a lot. But one thing that makes our country different is the fact that in most countries, you have academia talking on their own, you have the government being really a recipient and a regulator, and you have the private sector being the driver. What we have here is we have an innovative academic sector. We have an extremely agile, innovative, and fast government sector. So if you look at what's happening in the government today, the government is giving the private sector a run for its money. It's investing in research, it's investing in being agile, it's deploying much faster than anywhere else on earth. And the private sector here is thriving. So you have one of the most dynamic countries in the world in terms of private sector growth. And that is driven by the private sector's need to continuously either match the pace of government or exceed it.
That's very impressive, Your Excellency. Could you elaborate on the industries and sectors where the UAE is leading with the use of AI? Now, there's a lot of chat about the ChatGPT, and there's a lot of buzz around it. Do you see the benefits, and how could it disrupt the business landscape that we have now?
Okay, I'd like to answer this question by doing a quick poll or a survey. How many people here have used ChatGPT? Can you raise your hands? Okay, for those of you who haven't used it, you're in for a surprise. This is incredible, but the thing about it is, if we look at certain tools, so there's Midjourney, there's ChatGPT, there's DALI, there are a few tools out there that create an output that we never imagined would be possible, especially now. So tend to sit with experts all the time, and what ChatGPT was able to achieve in 3 months, not a single person was able to forecast other than the people at OpenAI, right? And it shows us that we are going to have these anomalies that are going to be game changers and shifters, let's say, of the ability of artificial intelligence. What's going to happen in the near future, and this is happening in certain countries, so there's a company called Grey Puck Sand, if I'm not mistaken, in Australia, that uses Mid-Journey to design buildings, to design offices. So instead of having engineers, designers, and multiple different people working on the full value chain of getting inputs from a customer and designing an output, all it takes is one prompt. So one person coming and saying, design an office for 10 people that has a lot of light and has spaces for greenery, and people should not face the wall. And the output is one that is extremely fast, is extremely interesting. What happens is the human actually comes and edits and tries to make use of that output and deliver the output to the individual much faster. We're going to see incredible productivity gains. I think this is a given for all of us. Another thing we're going to see is, think about the current approach with ChatGPT and the other models. Many countries are looking to ban them. What we're trying to do in the UAE is actually embrace these technologies. So we are looking at exactly what the use cases are. If there is a need to ban because the impact is extremely negative on the livelihoods of people, then there is a need for us to ban, but I don't think that's going to be the case. What I do think is there's a lot of promise for it to ensure that all of us, the people in the room and the people out of this room, are able to increase their productivity and increase their output using these technologies. Anyone who doesn't use it today is by far at a disadvantage to anyone who uses them.
Right. You spoke about the vision, and I want to ask you, how are we developing and attracting talent in AI? What are the skills and competencies that are required for leaders in AI?
This is a very interesting question, because I think it would have been a very different answer had we asked it 3 months ago or 4 months ago. 4 months ago, you needed someone that is very skilled in the actual core competency that is required, whether it's the coding ability, whether it's in mathematics, or the core need of us to develop artificial intelligence systems. Today, if you think about tools like Mid-Journey, DALI, and ChatGPT, you don't really need to be a technical expert, but you need to be able to understand its limitations to be able to use it in the right manner. I think in the future, we're going to need less technical capabilities, although there is going to be a concentration of that globally in certain places. But we're going to need more, let's say, users of these technologies to create new outputs. So some unicorns that are going to come out in the next 6 months are not going to be unicorns that are developing AI tools. They're going to be unicorns that are using or leveraging things like ChatGPT to create new outputs that people have not actually thought of, right? In the UAE, we're doing 3 things. First, the Golden Visa program that we have is a program that is ensuring anyone that has a certain talent in the technical space can call the UAE home for at least a decade or more without having to think twice about really growing roots here. Second is we're doing a lot of programs to incentivize people to come here to deploy their technologies. So I'll give you one such example. We have a supercomputer that's part of our federal government, and we actually open up access to it for free for academia and for startups to use whenever they need, with certain limitations. We don't want to make sure that we don't want it to be hogged by 1 or 2 parties. We want to make sure that it's democratized and used by every company that wants to use it and every academia that wants to use it as well. But these kind of things are attracting people by the droves. I think in terms of talent migration, we're amongst the top countries in the world today.
Fantastic. Your Excellency, can you tell us about how the UAE's strategy taking place regarding the digital economy and its contribution to the country's overall economy? I
would love to take credit for this, but sometimes it's good for you to give people the actual process in which we were able to create this. The UAE started its digital economy journey relatively late compared to other countries. So we started really, I would say from 2015 or 2014, wherein Silicon Valley, for example, has been working on building digital economy companies since the 70s. We were able to go from not having a single successful company in this field to being the highest country in the world that attracts, in the region, that attracts foreign direct investment in terms of digital economy companies and VC. The highest number of unicorns in the region actually exists in the UAE. The highest concentration of talent in this space today in our region, whether it's the GCC or the MENA region as well, exists in the UAE. This was created because of many years of investments and foresight. So if you think about Internet City, Dubai Internet City and Dubai Media City, these two clusters brought a lot of talent, a lot of companies, where there were people that saw the promise of technology, they started their own companies, and they were able to become unicorns, they were able to become successful players in the digital economy space as well. If you think about as well the choice of His Highness Sheikh Mohammed to put these cities next to each other, it made no sense to most people in the 2000s. Media was something, and the internet was an unproven infrastructure play. His Highness saw that the internet and media are going to converge. So he put these two clusters next to each other. What did that create? It created media internet giants that became success stories globally. One such example is Media.net, which is a company that was started and was grown out of the UAE and out of Dubai, that was acquired for $900 million a few years back, and was one of the 3 largest online advertising giants in the world from the UAE. This would not have been possible if he did not have that foresight and put these two clusters next to each other.
That's fantastic to know. How will the digital economy now affect the way we work?
It depends on what you're doing. If you think about putting down infrastructure or building a house, how much will the digital economy affect that? I think there are productivity gains from certain technologies like 3D printing, like using drones for surveying, like, for example, using artificial intelligence to plan and to give you the right way for you to build and the most effective critical path for you to achieve the output that you want. But it's not ready today. So will it affect us? I'd say in the next 6 months, I'm not sure. It might, but it's unlikely. Will it affect us in 3 years? I think it will. There are going to be a lot of applications where these technologies and the digital economy in general is going to benefit from the deployment of these technologies in these sectors. And then finally, we're going to reach a point where the efficiency gains are so high that it would not make sense for us to look at conventional methods or means of actually using, let's say, people or using labor or laborious, let's say, equipment instead of using technology, whether it's robotics, whether it's 3D printing, whether it's artificial intelligence to actually do it. So we are at this cusp, we are at this pivotal point right now where everything in our life is going to be transformed because of this. What would make the change is how many people in this room, so the people in front of me, embrace these technologies and try to deploy these use cases. Because if we don't do it, and I think the UAE is always a first mover,
yes,
we are never going to see the true promise. It's always going to be an academic or someone on a stage telling you this is the promise. But once we try to deploy, and once we make these investments, the output can be quite high.
Your Excellency, finally, what are the current AI career opportunities in the UAE? What sort of advice can you give professionals involved in the AI and the digital economy?
So let me say this, and I need to think about this answer quite closely. There are endless opportunities, not just in the UAE, but globally for anyone who is truly not just an expert, but a user as well of artificial intelligence that knows how to create the highest optimal output in this space. What is going to happen is adoption is still not high enough. So in government, adoption is probably higher in the UAE than most countries, but it isn't very high compared to the potential, right? We want to go to adoption of 60% or 70% or 80%, but it's nowhere close to that today. So what we need to think about is where the adoption is highest, and the adoption is highest in the startup space, in people building actually companies using these technologies, using artificial intelligence, namely, and also in the academic sector. So these are the two places today where I think there are the most amount of jobs, there's the highest potential for growth, and people can create the let's say, trajectory that they want to create for themselves moving forward. But as we see these trends continue to snowball and continue to grow, we are going to see a lot higher, let's say, a need of people with these skill sets in government, of people with these skill sets in the private sector, of people with these skill sets in the startups as well. What I would suggest to everyone is AI is a core. It's like speaking the English language. Today, if you want a job, in most places on earth, you need to speak English, right? So I think you need to understand how to use AI, you need to understand what AI is, and you need it the same way you need to speak the English language. And then you can actually look at other disciplines that you can take with it to give yourself a competitive advantage. So I am a doctor that is exposed and uses AI. I am an architect that is exposed and uses AI. I am a contractor that uses AI. And that is where the highest promise is. If you are able to do that, the opportunities are endless, not just in the UAE, globally. If you think I'm only going to be exposed to it and know what it is, without really having a sub-discipline that makes me different to others, it might be a job that is created today, but in a short period of time, everyone's going to know AI the same way that everyone knows the English language.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Your Excellency. Big round of applause for His Excellency. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you.
Fantastic conversation. Thanks a lot. Thank you.